Good evening. Greetings, one and all. I'm going to be working more on this font. Hope you're doing well. I was productive this day. Still could have been more productive, but productive all the same. Alright, I'm going to double check that everything is live over here. All right, testing 1, 2, 3. All right, it is indeed working. Okay. Greetings, Ambush Cave. How are you doing? All right. So, tonight we are going to be trying to finish up this font. It's taken me a long time to get this going. Yes, we are making a font. And there were some corrections given by the some requests for changes from the commission. And so the ones that you see highlighted in yellow are the ones that have been updated. And now I'm going back and using the things that I updated for the yellow ones, trying to go back and update the other letters so there's more consistency with it. But that's where I'm at right now. I gotta do that update, but also I need to update the S. The S is, I'm not liking that. It needs to get a facelift. And then I'll test it and then put it into FontForge to actually create an actual font with it. I think I might do that part though tomorrow, because I'm not going to be live for too long tonight. Mostly just to get the refinement all kind of squared away. Because you'll notice there's things like this. Notice there's two different types of letters right now, where you have the top, where this one right here has that kind of curved look. Then we have this, which is honestly kind of nice. I like this one, but it has a little bit of a bite out of this one. There's little inconsistencies like that because I went with several different styles, and now I have to unify it. So that's where I left off last time. I was trying to figure out the different sort of spines for the letters. And that is where we left off last time. Now there is something that I can also make sure to put up here, and that is the promo that I've been meaning to put back on here. Okay, where is that? Promo. Right. It's going to be under 3. See, here we go. Okay, so exit studio mode. Now put that up here. Okay, here we go. What happened to Silverado? All right, well, I just need to put that up there so I can bring it up later. Silverado, what happened? Did it glitch on me? Let's try a different piece of music. Oh, Silverado radio just went off. That's weird. Okay. Duly noted. That is a problem to keep an eye open for. I don't know anything about making fonts, but do you have to unify it? Well, you don't have to. I mean, technically, you could go out and make a font with a pencil and paper. Yes, there are websites where you can do that, and then plug it in. You scan a sheet, and it puts it into it and spits out your font. This is a little bit more refined because this is going to be used for an actual production. So, thus, the font needs to be a bit nicer. I've only made 2 fonts beforehand, and they were not complete. We'll just put it that way. So this one is the first complete font set that I'll be making. And they don't have to be unified. It's more like it just looks more professional when you do it in that way. Let's put it like this. All right, let's come down here to this area right here. Okay. This is one of the lines of text that I know is going to be utilized. Let's say, for example, instead of the T being like this, the T looked like this. I mean, that's a unique design, right? It stands out. It makes it a unique font. But does it fit the other characters? No, it looks like you switched the font halfway through the sentence. That's why we want to refine it, just merely for the fact that we want it to be uniform enough that people think that it is professional and that somebody didn't just mix and match some fonts together and call it quits. So because of that, you'll notice like the S right here. The S does not fit this sort of style. You'll notice like the T, for example, it has kind of this curved style right here. So does the E. The F as well. But when it comes to this, that doesn't really exist. So what I'm probably going to do for the S is I'm going to bring over this kind of a swoop and then dip with that. And that is going to be the main goal. But I'm going to start from the letter A and proceed on down. I just have to unify some of these elements so I can be able to recreate these letters from scratch, basically. Okay, not exactly scratch, but notice like right up here, I have my elements. These are the first elements that I did. And basically all the letters got put together using this. By the way, I really don't like Adobe, but Illustrator is one of the only programs that actually is pretty good. I expect Affinity will finally catch up to them, but until Affinity does a bit of some corrections to their software, Illustrator is still a better one. One of these that I had problems with earlier was the M. So the M, I originally had as this sort of style. It was actually kind of a unique one. I liked the style. It kind of fit with this U. But notice it looks a little off for the file set, for the font set. So I went back and created a new variation, which together still fits a little bit, although it could use a little bit more refinement. So as we go through this, I'm going to change these change the color of all the fonts into a teal, and that way I know that cyan, because then that way I know that I have gone through and done my corrections. By the way, okay, let's see here. I don't really have a good transition for this right now, so I'll just bring it up like this. By the way, just before we get started, I do want to mention we have our first Blender challenge, well, our second Blender challenge coming up. We tried this last month, and it has a lot of potential. So we are going to give this another try. Right now, we don't really have anybody lined up just yet, but I only just started promoting it. This is going to be something special. I don't expect the first two of them will probably be all that exciting in terms of, because we're probably not going to be able to get a whole lot of people for it. But I expect by the third and fourth, it's really going to start taking off. This is something special because I have yet to really see anybody really leaning into this for Blender. This exists in other software. This exists for other platforms. What it is a series of challenges to basically be done within 5 to 30 minutes per project. It's designed to be fast-paced. People of any sort of skill set are going to be competing against each other live on stream. I'm going to be basically moderating and jumping back and forth between the different video feeds. And that way we can be able to see the different techniques people use. It's going to be a tutorial session as much as a showcasing session. You did a 3D model and are you into 3D modeling and you think that you can do a pretty good job? Well, this is a chance to build up your resume. This is not really done out there, but there are a couple of channels that do it. And so this is a small channel. I don't expect we're going to get too terribly far, but we're going to give it a shot. But anyway, that's how it works. Hopefully that makes sense, Ambush Cave. But this is going to be something that I'll be announcing the rules and the basically the basic format later on this weekend. But anyway, the first promotion stuff has come out for it, and I look forward to sharing more with it the further we get along in the planning. We had 2 people participate in the last one. It was impromptu, actually. It was not planned, and honestly, it really did take me by surprise. I was not prepared for it, and it actually turned out to be a blast. And so immediately right there, we're like, hey, but let's try this again sometime. Kind of like how those loop in. But anyway, that will be in just under 2 weeks. I don't know what the start time is going to be. It's going to be something fairly reasonable, though, because I know most of the streams are fairly late in the evening. Never fear, the real Pantheon 3D is here. Greetings, real Pantheon, who obviously does not have a clone roaming around somewhere on the web. I was just showing a moment ago, Pantheon, the first sort of like banner for the Blender challenge. And so I'm trying to figure out what time that would be best. So if you ever find the time, be sure to take a look at the Discord area and be sure to mention the ideas that you have, because I know that you mentioned beforehand that you wanted to be involved with the planning and the kind of the helping to troubleshoot how to kind of pull it off. By the way, how did that model turn out that you're working on? Have you finished it, or do you still have to work on it? I think this will be a decent one to work with. Is that about the same height? Roughly. Yeah, I think thinner is going to be better. I've been forced to do a character at the moment, so it's been put back. I understand. Hope that being forced to do a character, I hope that it turns out well, and so you'll be able to say with use it as a good promotion of your skills. You know, back in the past, when I was at the TV station, there were a lot of projects I hated because they really aggravated me in terms of limiting what I could do creatively. But you know what's interesting? Almost every one of them became favorites of mine because I was restricted so much that I actually found out some more creative things to do as a result that I probably never would have actually pursued otherwise. Let's change the cyan so that way I remember that these are the building blocks. Oh, and cut that. We're going to close down these areas right here and lock them. We're going to put this as version 1.1. I need, I keep saying I need to update my music selection for the streams, but I can't find a good collection of music to kind of grab from. I want to make sure that they're not copyrighted or that they're game related, so that way it doesn't trigger any sort of warning. But I've not found good ones out there. I'm too cheap to go out and buy a subscription, so I want to get ones that are, you know, non-problematic. So these are just our rough measurements. All right, these ones are measurement blocks, so we're going to put them as red. Actually, we'll put them as rows here. Let's see. I believe that's the same. Yeah, for the most part. And we'll do that as our measurement there. So now we can have this pieced together like so. You know, I've made a lot of vector letters, but I've not made any more than 2 fonts to this point. And the reason why is because it's actually a fairly labor-intensive process. I don't usually get the luxury of getting to put that much time into them. So I was actually glad that I'm being permitted to kind of refine this, because up until then, the only characters I had to work with were these ones right here. These were from the original logo that I did. And it's kind of limiting, especially when you have to create a whole bunch of other letters to go with it. So I have gotten a chance to go back and basically redesign everything from scratch as a result. non-uniform, horizontal 50. We want the numbers to be relatively based upon each other. That way we can make it feel a little bit more refined and clean. So, if we bring this over, that's the same width. That's good. Wish the snap option was a little bit better. Greetings, Psychopon. How are you doing? Things have been going fine. I'm not all that happy, though, about the lack of snow that we've had in Alaska this year. The lower 48 stole all of our snow in our winter. And basically we had a big wind come up from Hawaii. And it blew all of our Arctic air over Canada and down into the lower 48. So the lower 48 got into the negatives while we had a miserable 40 degrees Fahrenheit up here. But the temperature's finally starting to shift and we're getting cold weather to return. I know, right? It's like, I expect people to want to come and steal your money or steal your house or whatnot, but steal your weather? I mean, that's cold. Literally cold. Yes, this is a font. I'm making the basics of this font so that way it can be easily pieced together with blocks, and then I'll refine the elements. So this is the current font. The ones that are white were the ones that were the first iteration. The ones that are yellow are the second iteration. And now I'm going to be making cyan as the final with rows here as being the measurement tools that I use. So yeah, it's been it's starting to go fairly smoothly. I've been taking way too long to finally get this all squared away, but now I am almost finished with that. Al, come on. Well, now. Always make sure that you're in studio mode, folks. And that way, you're less likely to have a hotkey suddenly trigger on you when you don't have a Stream Deck or anything like that. Yes, this is very professional around here. Okay, so that element is good. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mirror this. I'm going to move it up. And this top area is not going to get the same sort of dimensions. It's going to be slightly different as we try and make this stand out as a more unique font. We're going to have this kind of spine along this spike along its spine, because this is all designed around kind of a dragon theming. So we're going to have a little bit of that. For those that are curious, this is for a D&D-like campaign book. And so, as such, they wanted some unique letters for this. And I'm grateful for getting a chance to try it, but I also realize I am not the best equipped for this stuff. So hopefully I get better at it as a result. Okay, you know what? I want something different. Give me some jazz, folks. There we go. Most fitting. All right, so now we have a middle area here. And that's going to help out with this, but you know, let's make it a, we have our middle area. We're going to move this over here. That's going to be our measurement for there. And actually, let's make a, let's turn it on its side so we know it's a point here. And then we're going to make this one, the next one is going to be 2/3 of the height. So we're going to grab this. Now, there's a couple of different ways to try and do this. I have found the easiest method is to do this. Because trying to give an actual number sometimes doesn't allow it to snap into place. Okay, so now that all those are offset, ready, folks? This is how you divide one area into a 2/3 area. So we stretch that. Okay, bingo. Now delete that and just stretch this on up. Nope, don't rotate it. Stretch it on up to the top. Bring that on in so I know it's a measurement. And this one is also going to get decreased in size so I know it's a measurement. All right, so let's also grab this one and move that point down. There we go. That way we know the 2/3 height. Now I need this part right here, the part that's angled. There's going to be a couple different of these examples of these I'm going to need to grab. Now, on not this Saturday, but next Saturday, we're going to have a very interesting stream that's done. I'm going to be mentioning about this a bit, so if you heard this already, my apologies. I'm going to be bringing it up a couple of times, and that is that we are going to be having a Blender challenge in which people from basically all backgrounds get a chance to show their skills on stream, and people get to learn from them. We get to see different techniques done, and then we're going to be doing things that are either competitions or possibly, not this time around, probably, but possibly some very short, fast turnaround group projects. The idea is to build up people's resumes, especially in an age where AI threatens so many of our livelihoods. We as artists need to learn and get better, and one of the best ways to do that is to learn from one another. So, if that is something that people are interested in, that is something that will be taking place at the end of each month, of which this is our poster for that. At least the first poster. Okay, this is just one that I did, and we're going to get a better one in the future. Greetings, BFDI. How are you doing? Double check this is gonna fit over here. Yes, that will fit. Okay. So that's an interesting shape. Bring that on over here. Let's hide this back here. So we're going to move all this up to the first line when it's all said and done. I like how this swoop happened there. Do I just copy that, or do I build a new one? Let's do a new one. It's snowing in the south. Hasn't snowed since 2021. Well, like I said earlier to the folks that were watching, you all stole our snow. Up here in Alaska, we've had very warm winds as the polar vortex was pushed out of the Arctic. And so thus, us in Alaska are missing our snow, and we can't go skiing because you all stole our cold weather. Expect it back with interest. Maybe make it a couple of degrees colder, you know. We actually had some very cold weather the last couple of years, so we were kind of due for a warm winter anyway. But I gotta say, it's a lot harder to drive when it's hard to see, because right now, if you go outside, it is quite dark, and the snow helps to brighten up our landscape. So when we don't have that, just makes things a little bit harder. And of course, you know, you have to worry about moose suddenly coming out of nowhere. And fortunately, I haven't had a run-in with moose, but it is something that can always happen. So you always want to keep that in the back of your mind when you're around Alaska. Just make sure the moose are not inconvenienced too much. Together. point there. Is there another point there? There is. All right, there we go. I can pull this on in. That's not enough. I want it to match that shape. Okay, I can basically do it with this one right here. It's not quite the same, though. I kind of liked how the previous one looked. We're going to alter it just ever so slightly for this one right here. Well, I've been working on the 3D renders for the last couple of days, and they're really looking better. Much better. But there's a couple of things I wish I could go back and correct, and I think I know what went wrong. So I've been working on some 3D scenes to try and make a wilderness in the background. But unfortunately, the wilderness was glitching quite a bit, and I couldn't figure out what was going wrong. And I think I could have solved a lot of my problems if I did just one simple thing. If I split up the scene into more sub-scenes. I think that would have actually done it. Now, no guarantee that that would have actually solved all the problems, but I think it would have solved most of them. Because I find that I'm linking scenes way more as I get comfortable with it, but it causes a lot of strain on the PC. So you want to optimize, make sure everything is nice and cleaned up of its of extra geometry whenever possible. Yeah, I got a lot of extra work I'm going to need to do with that. Fortunately, this one's almost done, but now I got to go into the rendering part, of which there's a couple of bugs I have to do before I can commit everything to the renders. I want to be a storm chaser when I grow up. I'm young, but not too young, in the early teens, but I know it's risky, but I'm doing it for the thrill of it. Or I want to go to Canada. Indeed. Lurking now, much appreciated, Pantheon. You know, storm chasers, up here in Alaska, we have a lot of people that are that struggle with being able to predict the weather. Partially, it's because there's not enough weather stations around here. If you look at a map of the US, for example, you will see a radar map from the west coast to the east coast. And when I was living in the East Coast, we would look not at the forecast for the week. We actually started looking at the radar. And when we looked at the radar, we had a much clearer picture of what to expect because it was getting predictable. You can't do that in Alaska. There's not enough data for that. Honestly, what we need is like 15 weather stations in addition to the ones that we currently have, just to be able to map things. But there's still a lot of challenges with that. And art is a good hobby, but I have a mobile phone. You know, your art skills are never limited to necessarily to your tools. This is my favorite utensil, a pencil. And a fairly cheap one at that, actually. I mean, it's a artist pencil, but this is one of the cheaper ones out there. And you know what else I like to draw on? I like to draw on note cards. And it actually turns out pretty well. That and pens and whatnot. That's my preferred medium. This is what's good for commission. But if you're a hobbyist, your art could be clay, it could be paper, it could be pencils like that, it could be a computer. might not want to head headlong into art as a career, because right now our culture is attacking artists quite a lot right now, and the world of art is very volatile right now. But it's a good hobby to have. Think of it like having another set of communication skills. If you're trying to describe a scene to somebody, they come up to you and they're asking you, "Hey, we saw, we heard that you saw a cloud out on the horizon," because you mentioned being a storm chaser. You mentioned that you saw a cloud. What did it look like? Because the cloud shape could actually tell you if there is like a tornado with it, or if it's like producing hail. And then you're like, "Oh, well, it had like this shape, and it was, I'm struggling to communicate it." Whereas you could just reach over with a pen and paper and sketch it up, and you're like, "It looked like that." Quick communication. It's a skill set that everybody should know. If not, doing what I'm doing, which is doing artwork for commissions. But it's still a good skill to know, and not enough people know it. And when I was at college, I had a professor. He came up to us and said, "All right, folks, you have to forgive me. I'm not an artist, but this is just too important for us not to talk about." He was a history professor. And he said, "I want you to imagine the United States." And he drew a box at the front of the class. He drew a box. And I was like, "Buddy, it's so easy to draw the United States. You don't need to draw a box. Here, okay? You don't even have to be perfect about it. Just fix some of it, and it looks more like the United States." But he took very little effort to try and communicate visually, and so when he tried to speak with words, it all got confusing. And finally, he had to get one of the students up there to help him draw the United States so we could actually understand what he was talking about. I don't really like drawing on paper, but digital is better. I always love sculpting. Everybody's got their medium. My grandfather wanted to draw more than anything. Well, he wanted to do art more than anything, but he couldn't. And he was complaining about it, and then we realized, you know, Grandpa, you have a lot of carving tools around here. And you have a lot of little things you're whittling on. You do realize you're an artist at this point, right? It was like, "No, I'm not an artist." But here he is, like, carving intricate stuff with his knife on wood, and we all have our strengths, and that was his strength. It's one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to the stream in a little under 2 weeks, because that's going to take it's going to be a very different sort of event where we're going to get to see other people's skill sets in a very, very unique way. I'm really looking forward to it. Grab these and move them up here. We're going to grab some of these and move them around. We're going to clean up this whole scene here. right, this is our font. Elements right here, they're going to replace the ones that are currently up here, but I'm going to bring some of those elements over here in just a moment. Yeah, I could go sculpt a snowman or something, but my hands would freeze. My gloves make snow stick, which sucks. That reminds me, when I was at college, this was years ago. I graduated back in what was it? 2013. And when I was at school, there were a couple days I did not have a good experience at college. I'm not an advocate for college. Mostly because I had such a very bad experience. But one of the days that I was just frustrated, I went out, it was snowing hard, and I thought, you know what? I just want to build a snowman. No, I did not watch Frozen to inspire this. It was like 2 years before Frozen came out. Okay. But I went out to build a snowman. And as I'm building it, some guys came along and tackled the snowman, destroyed it. And I had already had a bad day. I was like, I just want to do something productive. Can you guys just leave? I tried building it again. Same thing happened. Some folks saw it and decided to attack it. So I went over to a stump and built my snowman around the stump. And to help reinforce it, I poured water into the snow to strengthen it. And so it was basically a chunk of ice. The guys came along again, and it's like, oh, you never learn, do you? They tried tackling it, and you just hear thud as they bounce off of it. And they all start trying to destroy it. They eventually did tear it apart, but they were pretty banged up from it. It was not very civil of them. By the way, folks, if you see someone that's that is kind of doing something that is by themselves, don't harass them. You don't know what's going on. Those guys didn't know what was going on with me at that time. And they didn't realize, and nor would they probably have cared. But, oh well. But one of the things I learned while doing the snow out there was I brought... I found a stick on the ground. And the stick actually helped out for carving out details. So I found out I could actually sculpt in the snow by flicking it with a stick. So I at least came away with a new skill set. Sure, I wasn't like super special, but it was a positive for a time where I was just kind of not feeling all that great. 1000 IQ moment. Yeah, those folks were not necessarily the brightest tools in the tool shed that such a very simple trick would be able to get them. Now, fortunately, they didn't try and run it over with a car, because that would not have turned out very well, which I've heard of people that did that, and their car ends up in a terrible, terrible way. Then, of course, they get upset and nobody's happy, and it's like, well, you shouldn't have done it. But anyway, there are some people that do that. We're going to have that... I want that used like an exception. See, now this is where the font starts to break apart. Because I really like how this U turned out. But I need to update it. We're going to keep that element. We're probably going to grab it later on. But for now, we're going to start rebuilding these fonts. Okay. I need to now figure out the angle on this, because the V is basically the same one. Actually, let's rotate the other way because that's going to give us a positive number. I want to say it's 15. Most of them I think was 15. Nope, not quite. 15 is just a little closed off. You know, there are a couple of times when I look back at the past where I start kicking. Oh, indeed. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Hope you have a wonderful evening where you are, and have a blessed day as well. Thanks for giving us some of your time. So there's been a couple of times where I just kick myself for decisions that I've made in the past. And college was like the pinnacle of all frustrations coming out at once. I did not want to go to college. I made that very clear to many, many, many people. But culturally, I felt like I had no other choice. When I went to, when I did finally go to school, I was basically told all of my assumptions were wrong. You were going to find out that they were just overblown concerns. Nothing was going to happen. And you know what? From day one, every last one of my fears of college came real. Every last one of them. Okay, not every last one, but you know, I'm exaggerating for the sake of it. But like over half of them happened on exactly day one. And they didn't stop for years. I became bitter about college, okay? I admit that. I'm very bitter about college. I was gypped out of it. I did not see any goodness in what was done. But I didn't really have any sort of way to convince others of that. It was like everyone said, oh, well, there's something that you must have done wrong, obviously. And I would have believed them once upon a time. But see, as I grew older and after college had finished, I found out that all those things that had happened should not have happened to a student. In fact, when I told my advisor about the stuff about how things had been, he was a bit shocked, and he's like, wait a minute, I thought you were just complaining this whole time. And he didn't realize that the things that I was experiencing were real. In fact, I knew a couple of people, they didn't believe anything was amiss. So I came away from college very bitter and frustrated because nobody at college believed a student. And so I came away from it and I thought, well, what did I learn? I'll tell you what I learned. It wasn't the standard classes that I learned from there. I learned perseverance. That was the thing I learned. Things that would have broken me years later actually proved to be fairly easy to overcome. Not entirely, okay? That everything's going to have like moments where it's like easier and when it's not, but a lot of things that I experienced afterwards felt very minimal by comparison. It felt very easy. To the point of where when problems occurred, I was like, well, here we go again. And I didn't freak out about it because I'm like, well, it's kind of par for the course. Now, sometimes you get that sort of experience, but it's not bad to have that sort of experience. To become tougher is good. Even if it's not fun or enjoyable. But whereas I had college friends that came away from it, and it was like, oh wow, it was so much fun. It was there's all these great opportunities that I got to do, and there I am over there trying to just keep my head above water to that whole time, and thinking, well, you guys are having fun. I just want to get out of here. So by the time I got to work, finally got out of college and got into the workforce, I was so happy. My other friends were not so happy. They kind of liked the college life, and I actually enjoyed the non-college life because I felt like I could actually go somewhere. I felt like I could actually do something and it mattered. That's enough rambling for a moment. I'm gonna go into silent mode for a little while. By the way, folks, if you would be so kind as to take a moment to either like or dislike the stream, I would greatly value that. That way it helps to basically tell me who is and who's flesh and blood and who's a bot. I know it's kind of a weird roundabout way to try and want to do that, but I honestly get really irked at the number of bots that have happened in the past in streams. And so by doing that, it helps to figure out a little bit more who is out there and whatnot. You don't have to comment, you don't have to do anything else, but if you could just like or dislike the stream, that would be enough. Now, if you do want to say something, I also greatly appreciate that as well, but that's the only thing that I kind of would like to see for the streams that are on YouTube or on Rumble. So, we'll go on for another 15 minutes, then we're going to wrap it up. I know we haven't gotten a whole lot of work done, but we actually have gotten a couple of the basics figured out. There's a couple of exceptions to the font that are here, but I want to try and unify some of these elements a little bit more in the final, but we're going to keep pressing on with some of these first. Get rid of that. Clean up this area over here a little bit. What I can't figure out right now is the C. Maybe I need to come back to C, make it one of the last ones, because I need to do something with a round letter. So I'm going to go through with the ones I currently can build and return to that one tomorrow. Isn't it nice that the English language only has as many characters as we do? And we don't have something like what you have in Asia, where you have hundreds of characters. Making a font for an Asian culture must be very, very difficult. I mean, it's bad enough to try and do it with English in that sense. Can't imagine the length that you have to go through for some of those other nations. Once you finish E and F, that's when we'll log off for the evening. All right, the basic rules are figured out. There's a couple of exceptions that we're going to figure out next time. The rest of the letters should start becoming easier and faster to create. The A took a long time, the B a little bit less, E and the F we're having new functions and features, so it took a little while, but should be good to go from there. And now, dagnabbit, I forgot to preserve that. All right, well, I know how to do that. Gotta get that back. Now I have to undo. Okay. Hopefully, undo goes back that far. We'll fix that next time. I destroyed my own work there. Well, that's what happens when it gets later, and then you start making mistakes like that. So anyway, it's going to happen. We're not doing any raids because right now there's nowhere that really seems to be able to do a raid. Well, actually, wait a minute. Rumble seems to have that ability. Let's see if anybody's doing art on Rumble. We are rating specifically anything that is art related. Well, not anything, within reason. Art and creativity. Who is doing something? Oh, it's Lo and behold, only me. Amazing. That seems to be a kind of a regular occurrence on this platform. Man, there's so much AI nonsense. And there's a lot of stuff that doesn't count as art, but they put in the art category. I guess I'm guilty of doing something similar with putting games, and then it turns out to be art, and vice versa. All right, well, we're going to be calling it there. Not enough to do raids, and not enough locations to do raids, so we're going to end it with just a normal end screen. Have a very pleasant evening and morning, everybody. Be civil to one another. And just a reminder before we head on out, there is this Blender challenge that's going to be taking place later on. I look forward to helping to figure that out. And if you're interested, be sure to reach out. Anyway, as a reminder, everybody, be civil to one another.